AfterBuzz TV, starting place to the likes of WWE female superstars Kathy Kelly, Sonya Deville, and Zelina Vega, proudly presents Women's Wrestling Weekly, the world's first podcast and YouTube series dedicated exclusively to women's wrestling, featuring all the latest news as well as interviews with top superstars in the industry. And now, AfterBuzz TV's own gorgeous lady of wrestling, TK Trinidad.
Bonjour, you're watching Women's Wrestling Weekly, the #1 women's wrestling show on the planet. My name is TK Trinidad, aka the Canadian Assassin, and she's back for more. A very special co-host. She hails from the Valley.
Hey!
In Los Angeles. We have Emily May, farmer's daughter. We're just gonna keep throwing names until something sticks.
Happy to be here again, another week.
Another star of the week, another special guest. As per usual, because that's what we do. We bring women's wrestling to the masses. She calls herself the Immaculate Threat. Please welcome Nevaeh Chantel. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Good. So thank you for joining us.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
So this thing about, women's wrestling is just exploding over the last couple of years. So tell us kind of how you got into wrestling.
Well, I grew up as a wrestling fan. My uncle had VHS tapes for days. And, I was always a shy kid. So I would spend my time, after school watching wrestling tapes for hours until Raw came on. And that was, because I was, such a sheltered, introverted kid. That was, wrestling.
And then at one point, did you realize, okay, this could be my dream. I could become a wrestler?
Wow. I always wanted to be a wrestler, but I was never an athletic kid.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I always had insecurities until maybe around 23. I didn't just say go for it. I went to college, I went to hair school. None of those things clicked for me. And then December 2015, I joined the Monster Factory. And
then, so your first bump. How did that go? And what went through your mind?
Well, it was at the Monster Factory tryout. Danny Cage, QT Marshall, and Damian Priest for NXT.
Oh, wow.
All right there. And I hit my head on the mat. I bumped, I tucked my chin.
Ooh.
Oh, no.
Scared. But I was fine, but it was definitely a wake-up call to tuck my chin.
Yeah, so what made you how did you decide what type of trainer you would get and what school you would go to? And so how was that training process? Because you said you weren't athletic, and so I know that could be a difficult process. So what was that journey like?
Well, I was following several schools in my area, and the Monster Factory just was the one that I gravitated the most to. I liked it how Danny Cage presented himself on social media and a lot of his ideals. So that's why I went with the Monster Factory. And when I went there, he was honest with me,
mm-hmm.
And he told me it's going to be hard because of that I wasn't an athlete. So
mm-hmm.
I always hated that. That's why I stuck with the Monster Factory.
And now, starting training in 2015, we're now in 2019. How do you feel you've grown from then to now?
I've grown considerably. I've grown as a person since started wrestling. I was never a confident person. I never was a person who thought that I can go for something as big as this. So since starting at the Monster Factory, I've grown as a person. In the ring, I couldn't even roll. So I've grown as a performer.
Mm-hmm.
And so, a lot has happened. It took me a long time, though. I trained for about 3 years before I had my first match.
Wow.
So, and it took patience. And I went through a lot because I had a lot of self-doubt.
Mm-hmm.
Because I've seen girls who started with me go on and literally wrestle for bigger promotions while I was still just training and not having a match.
Right.
So I went through a lot before.
What was your first match like? Can you walk us through that?
So my first match was against Riley Shepard.
Mm-hmm.
It was at the Monster Factory, January 5th, 2018. And I remember that day I showed up and Danny was like, yeah, so you're gonna wrestle tonight, you versus Riley, 5 minutes.
Oof.
And I was like, cool. And that was the most confident I've ever in my head. I thought I was gonna be, wetting the bed. But I was like, all right, let's go, let's do it. You've been waiting so long for it. It's time to put your money where your mouth is. I went out there. Riley was such a professional out there. She's truly, I know she's right now out on injury, but she really is one of the most unappreciated women's wrestlers out there, I feel like, on the scene, because she's so good, and people don't know how athletic that girl is. So we went out there. I lost, but it was the fans who seen me at concession stands for 3 years was just so happy to see me in the ring, and they showed me so much love that night. So it was definitely one of the best experiences of my life. It was really cool.
So now, we've come, like I said, we've come a long way from, bra and panty matches, all that stuff. When you tell somebody that you're a wrestler, what's the biggest misconception that people have about female wrestlers that you've come across?
That I'm going to beat you up. I hate that. I feel like when I tell a guy I'm a wrestler, they're like, oh, she's going to beat me up. Oh, you're going to beat me up. And I feel like they're trying to flirt, but it's annoying. It's no, I'm not going to hit you.
And have you gotten any advice from any people who've been in the game for a very long time that you're that you hold dear to you?
I think the biggest advice I've gotten was from Ruthless Lala. I had a match against her a couple of months ago at WSU, and it meant because she's an African American woman who's also, a bigger woman, and I'm a bigger woman. And there's a few of us in this business, and so for her to just sit down and just talk to me and tell me things are going to be hard, but I have to push through, was really cool. And just that I love the African American women here in our business because we're so close. And I remember I posted my first training picture in the Monster Factory shirt, and Faye Jackson reached out to me and was like, good luck on your journey. So yeah, I think that's the best advice, is understanding that it's going to be hard, but I have to push through because this is what I want.
Now, have you received any pushbacks or any of those hardships yet? Because we had Faye on the show and she talked about how people wanted her to be more ethnic. They didn't want her to be African American. They wanted her to be Caribbean or something. And it's no, this is who I am. You need to accept me for who I am. So have you received any of that in your career?
Yes. Like I said, I've always been told to lose weight or stuff like that, and I've lost some weight. But my first 2 years in wrestling, I got to the point that I didn't recognize myself. I saw a picture of myself at 100 and I think I was 170 pounds, and I just did not look like myself. And it affected my confidence training because I felt like I was I lost all this weight and it's cool and I'm being congratulated for it, but this is not me. I'm a bigger woman. I have, curves, and I have curves. So that's always been a problem. I feel like that's the reason why a lot of times I probably didn't get pushes or didn't get opportunities, because I am comfortable being plus size.
Who you are.
Yeah.
As you're looking to the future, and you've been in this for a few years and have overcome a lot and pushed through, what's some advice, if there's a young wrestler coming up to you that looks up to you and says, hey, I want to get into this as a female wrestler, what's some advice you could possibly give them?
Be yourself. Don't let nobody change you. You're not going to be the most popular, but you will be authentic, and people will gravitate to that because you are yourself. Don't let nobody change you. Don't try to be popular. Be the first you. I think that's the best advice I can give somebody. Don't try to. When you go to wrestling school, it's going to be intimidating, scared, really scary. But if you just be yourself, do what you have to do. You're not there to impress nobody. Just train and go for your dreams, because that's what you're there for.
And dream matches. Do you have any dream matches? People that you're like, I can't wait to get to, because like we're all evolving in whatever career we are. So it's like, I can't wait to get to this so I can have a match against this person. Who's on your list?
Tamina.
Oh my gosh, that would be good.
That Tamina. I think she's one of the most underrated women out there.
Mm-hmm.
And she's somebody who I remember watching her and Nia Jackson and like, yo, that's like dope. That's like the wrestler that I would like to be, because those two women just exude power.
Mm-hmm.
And Tamina is definitely my dream opponent.
Okay, I like
amazing.
it. That would be awesome.
Yeah.
All right, so now we're going to hit some rapid hot tags real quick.
Women's Wrestling Rapid Hot Tags.
So what's going to happen is I'm going to ask you a question. You're going to say the first thing that comes to your mind. So always early or always late?
Always early.
Last person you text?
My best friend.
If you were a crayon, what color would you be?
Black.
Celeb you would want to meet?
Jennifer Lopez.
Last show you binge watched?
Pose.
If you were to listen to one album for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Tell Me You Love Me by Demi Lovato.
Oh, nice.
That is nice.
And if you were to have one last meal before you go up to heaven and hang out with Jesus, what meal would it be?
Cheesesteak and cheese fries.
Oh,
It's like you prepared for this. I
that
like
sounds
it.
so good.
Thank you so much for joining us. Where can people find you?
You guys
No problem.
on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook like page at Nevaeh Chantel. And I interact with everybody if I see it.
Thank you so much,
Yes,
Nevaeh.
thank
And
you.
actually, tell us about your name. Is it something you created? Is that your name? How did that all come about?
So my original wrestling name was going to be Tatiana Shante.
Mhm.
And my wrestler trainer hated it. So I actually got with a couple of friends, and we just was like, yo, we have to figure out something for you like now. Like not just like think about it. And because once you have a wrestling name, you can now prepare yourself to go after it.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like Sasha Fierce.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So we literally was like, I always loved the name Heaven, but I felt like it sounded too stripper.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I need two first names, because growing up in like 2007, I was noticing like all the TNA knockouts had two first names. They all sounded stripper,
Right.
but they were all, I was like, they all have two first names. So that's what I'm gonna get. I'm gonna get two first names.
Uh-huh.
So that's how it came about. Like, it was just like literally me and friends like putting it together, and Heaven backwards Nevaeh. And I like the name Chantel.
Well, shout out to
I
your
love
friends
it.
and shout
Love
out to
it.
you. Thank you so much, Nevaeh, for joining us. We're looking forward to
Yeah.
seeing the rise of your career. You are officially a friend of the show, so you can come on the show whenever you want. Just hit us up. You
Yeah.
have my number personally. Trust me, you are
And
good
we'll
to
follow
go.
you. We'll come see a show.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely. Definitely.
All right. Thank you so much. That marks the end of today's show. Where can everybody find you, Emily?
So you can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Emily May Heller. So you can follow all the sports, wrestling, and especially women's wrestling.
And now, thank you guys so much for following the show. Thank you guys for all your comments. Thank you guys for following us on social media. We just started, I don't know, like a year and a half ago or so. Without you guys, we wouldn't be the #1 women's wrestling show on the planet. If you're watching us on YouTube, make sure to hit that subscribe button. If you listen to us on iTunes, 5 stars or better. Also on all those other podcasts and streaming services, let us know what you think. My name is TK Trinidad. You can find me on everything at TK Trinidad. Till next week, guys. Ciao.
Bye.
From executive producer Kevin Undergaro, producer TK Trinidad, and me, Maria Menounos, we would like to thank you for tuning in to Women's Wrestling Weekly. To help TK, the crew, and women's wrestling in general, we ask that you subscribe, rate, and comment on Women's Wrestling Weekly at Apple Podcasts, and subscribe to our AfterBuzz TV wrestling channel on YouTube for this and other outstanding wrestling content. Buzz you later.